African Press International, represented by Korir, is privileged to interview Counsel Logan from the USA, who was part of Ruto Sang team in Kenya Case 1. Right. You attended Kenya Case 1, and now you have been also here during Case 2, where Uhuru Kenyatta, Francis Mudaura, and Hussein Ali are participating. What have you seen as a difference between the two cases?
I think what strikes me actually are the similarities between the cases. Before being in the public gallery over the past week to watch Kenya 2, I was not very familiar with the facts of their case, even with the allegations, and certainly not with the evidence. But what has really struck me is that the same problems with the prosecution investigations that we raised in the Kenya 1 case are present here again in the Kenya 2 case. The same problem of anonymous witnesses, contradictory witnesses, alibis that are not checked out. It seems again as if the prosecution has failed to do some very basic fact-checking. And
as a lawyer, you can represent a guilty client or a client who is not guilty, who is innocent. What can you say about this case? Do you believe these clients and the suspects are guilty or not guilty?
They're never guilty until they're found to be, and so you don't ever represent a guilty client. But I genuinely don't believe that the charges against either Honorable Ruto or Arab Sang should be confirmed. I can't see that these charges can go to trial.
The case has been brought to the ICC. Will you say Kenya is a failed state? And if not, what is your take on the fact that the case is not being dealt with in Kenya locally?
I certainly would not say that Kenya is a failed state. This is a case that Marino Ocampo has sought himself. As far as I understand, there are challenges being made in the domestic courts, and I'm sure that more can be done by the Kenyan government and that people will be properly investigated, etc.
Counsel, the prosecution is using anonymous witnesses. They have not presented live witnesses in court. Is this act by the prosecution frustrating the defense? And if yes, in what way?
I think it took us a bit by surprise, only because they had indicated during the initial appearance that in fact they planned to call up to, I believe, 10 live witnesses. Yeah. And so until we saw their actual schedule, where they said they don't anymore intend to call any live witnesses, we had anticipated that being part of their case. It's not a frustration to us, it's their strategy. We did, of course, choose to call live witnesses and would have called more if we had been allowed, but it's not necessary for them to do so at this stage.
But do you think Chief Prosecutor Ocampo has genuine intentions on the Kenyan case?
That I can't say. I would hope that he is doing his job to the best of his ability.
Can you tell our readers or our viewers what you think should be done or should have been done differently by the prosecution in this case?
Well, I think, it's the same theme of investigations, and I would hope that in the future they would spend more time on the ground, they would question the credibility of their own witnesses, they would make a real attempt to find out what actually happened before bringing a case to this stage.
If the case goes to a full trial, something most people do not wish, what advice do you think counsels for these suspects, what advice should they give them to continue to cooperate with ICC? Because now they come because of the summons. Voluntarily. Sure. What do you say to that?
They have cooperated with the court thus far, and I would assume that wouldn't change were the case to move forward.
I have two last questions. By bringing charges against the 6 Kenya suspects, do you think the prosecutor is targeting African leaders? And if the answer is yes, should African countries that are ICC members pull out? What do you think as a lawyer?
Of course, that's something that would have to be determined by each of the African countries themselves. But I do think it's a very real truth that thus far at the ICC only African cases have been brought.
Do you personally believe in the ICC system?
I think yes. I think that the international criminal justice system is legitimate and has a valid role to play. It's the way that role is sometimes gone about that I have a problem with.
Before we wind up, can you sum up a little bit about, what you think about this case now after Uhuru Kenyatta gave his evidence, which I felt disabled the prosecutor? Because all of a sudden the prosecutor got stuck and started consulting his juniors.
I think Kenyatta did very well today. I think it's always useful to hear from the suspects because they're the ones often best placed to comment on the allegations that are being made. We'll have to see what happens over the next few days and to see how the prosecution sums it up at the end. But it's an interesting case to watch, certainly.
You were very, I said finally, but now the last one, complete last. When you spoke in Ruto case and Sang, the people who were sitting in the gallery, they were surprised, positively surprised of your performance, and all of them were very, very proud of you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
About my background.
Who is Logan?
I'm American. I graduated from law school in 2006. Shortly thereafter, I moved to Sierra Leone and have been working as a legal assistant in the Charles Taylor defense team for the Special Court for Sierra Leone. So my experience to date has been on that trial. We're currently waiting for judgment in that case, and so that's given me the opportunity to involve myself in another trial.
Thank you very much, counsel.
Sure, thank you. Take care.